is up. All right, here we go. And welcome to the post-game show. Brian Smith, Jason Martinez says the Flyers fall in defeat against the Florida Panthers. They pick up their 40th win of the season, 26th on home ice, I think they said. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, that sounds right. And
sounds like a lot.
More than 20 ago. 2040
wow. Yeah. Yeah. Flyers come back after, first period where they end up down 4-0, 2 power play goals, each by Sam Reinhart, 2 Carter Verhaeghe goals. They're down 4-0. Then the hit happens on Scott Lawton. I've been watching that hit over and over again. I don't know. I don't think it's a dirty play, but it's a good hit, but just bad circumstance. And, Chuck Fletcher put out during the game that an update on his injury, and it was I was interested in how it was worded. It said Philadelphia Flyers forward Scott Lawton is out with a head injury and will not return to tonight's Flyers-Panthers game at Florida Live Arena in Florida. And you just hope that's, it sounds just like a concussion. I'm not a doctor, but it sounds like he was concussed.
Yeah, I don't know how quickly you diagnose that or not. They all have baseline testing, I believe, and they're probably able to give him it certainly looked like it coming off the ice. I thought when I saw it, I thought at first it was shoulder first, but it became obvious that that they weren't worried about his shoulders. So it's unfortunate for him. He's having pretty close to the best season of his career. The only other one that's been around this is that 1920 season that actually came to a screeching halt 2 years ago today. Was the Boston game, the last game of that season. So he's been coming into his own, especially with everybody being out, and he's been able to dodge the injury bug to this point. So you just hope it's not going to be too long a thing for him, and he can get back in here and finish the year off on a good note.
Yeah, the crazy thing is you're starting to get people back. Now we're ticking away, getting closer and closer to the trade deadline, which is, I guess, technically now like 10 days away because it's on the 21st. We're at the end of the 10th here. And, you look at it and you go, this team was not destined to battle out there with a full complement of players at any point. And you weren't going to get Couturier back. You're not going to get Ellis back. Hayes has come back and has looked better, still not 100%, but looked better than he did earlier this season. So, you look at it and you go, hey, this is kind of what it's been this year. And why should that change now after 60 games?
It just fits right into the narrative, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it just feels it just feels like it's on at this point, even though things like this certainly happen from time to time. It's just unfortunate that a hit like that, resulted in what could be a serious injury. You want to see physicality like that in the game. You don't want it to be erased or anything like that. But at the same time, you certainly don't want to see people get hurt. So again, unfortunate that it turned out the way that it did, but it does seem to kind of fit the way the season is going.
Yeah, it's a kind of a microcosm at this point, unfortunately. Yeah. You like the microcosm to be something positive, but that just hasn't been the case in this season.
If you want a microcosm, how about Patrick Brown tipping in that power play goal? That's probably a microcosm for Florida's season.
Sanheim had that happen to him earlier in the year a couple times.
That's what gets teams over the top is all sorts of offensive power, and then you get the good bounces every now and then.
Yeah, remember earlier in the year, I think Sanheim had like a really good game, excellent game, and then I think like in overtime or very late in the third, a puck hit off his stick or his leg and went in. It was like the guy had a great game, but the only thing you'll remember is that the puck hit off him and went into your own net, and you ended up losing. It's hockey; it's a weird sport, right?
Yeah.
And that Florida team, they score 4+ goals a game. They build on that here and get 6, 5 with an empty netter. But geez, they are a complete team. And if you're kind of looking at a bar to set yourself, okay, this is where you got to get to compete for a cup. You look at Florida, you're going to see Carolina on Saturday at 3:00. You're going to see it up close and in person for the Flyers brass that's down there. See how those teams are built and see the firepower that they have, the defensive structure that they have, the depth that they have, and the goaltending they have. And all three of those two teams have it.
Yeah, and you also you got to take a look kind of how it's how it's developed and how it's been constructed. I mean, the Flyers again. Timmy and Coach were discussing this a little bit. They traded Radko Gudas 3 years ago now, I think, because they had an opportunity to get Matt Niskanen, and Gudas had just had that big suspension, and you weren't sure if he was going to be an effective player coming off of that suspension. Where was the league going to change his game to some sort of drastic effect? And obviously he's been able to adapt, but also at the same time, the Flyers certainly did not expect Matt Niskanen to play one season and COVID to hit and he retires. I mean, that's just unfortunate the way that shook out. But again, looking down this Florida roster, you don't have a ton of guys that jump out at you really as star players. I mean, you got Huberdeau, you got Barkov, you got Ekblad back on the line, but what they've done here is they've been able to find all the players to put in the right seats on the bus, so to speak, and it has really and it hasn't happened overnight. I mean, this is Barkov's I think 9th or 10th season with the club. Huberdeau has been around for almost the same amount of time. He's been in Florida for a very long time before this is finally turned around the right way. So this is kind of a good thing to look at, and hopefully it doesn't take the Flyers a decade like it has with those two players. But the way that this has come together is certainly something to look at.
Yeah, I mean, then you look at guys like going out and getting Sam Bennett from Buffalo, and you got to build a team in several different ways. I think your core needs to be built through draft and development, and you got to make some really savvy draft picks. And it's not just about the first round, but then you got to go out and you got to be fiscally responsible to be able to go out and make the proper moves to make your hockey team fit from a hockey standpoint, right? Where guys complement each other. You don't have redundancy in skill sets. You have a well-rounded team, because that's what it takes to win in this sport. You see teams with redundancy or just tons of skill and it doesn't fit, and that doesn't get you very far. And look, we'll see in the playoffs with Florida. I mean, they had a knockdown drag out first round last year. It was, it looked like the 80s, frankly.
Yeah. And
that battle.
Track of the fact too that for as much as we talk about about Pittsburgh and about
Tampa,
the way that team came together over the years, and Edmonton and all that, this is a similar situation. Huberdeau is a second or third overall pick, I believe. Markov is a second overall pick. Ekblad, a first overall pick, and that all happened in the span of 4 years. Huberdeau's 2011, Barkov is 2013, Ekblad 2014. So they were able to hit basically on all three of those top three picks that they had, and they've been able to build their team around that. So it's just like you said, the draft is forming your core, but the fact the way to make sure you're doing it is to go out and get some top three picks like that and get some luck at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. None of those three guys, Barkov, Huberdeau, or Ekblad, are anything you would term generational.
Oh.
It's not always about getting the Connor McDavid or the Jack Eichel. I don't think Eichel's generational, or Austin Matthews, who's got a good chance to be a Hart finalist this year. It's about getting guys that, they're not all Connor McDavid's, and that's not what it requires to get at the top of the draft. I mean, like Hedman was a number 2 overall, right? Yeah. I mean, he's fantastic. And Stamkos is a number 1 overall from 2009. But, and he's been fantastic. But none of them are what Connor McDavid is, or, that level, or Crosby or Ovechkin for that matter.
And that's the kind of thing where you really got, not only do you have to get the luck to get the pick, but you got to have the luck to get the pick in the right year, right?
Yeah.
what it comes down to with those.
Yeah.
It's like it's the difference between hitting 5 numbers in the Powerball and then also hitting the Powerball, right? It's
Yeah.
that
Slightly
little,
larger prize.
that little extra thing there that I mean, if Pittsburgh's not as bad as they are when Sidney Crosby is ready to come out of juniors, then he goes somewhere else. Same thing with.
Well, if that doesn't play out that way, they end up with Bobby Ryan, and
Right.
Anaheim ends up with Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
How'd
how
that work out?
close it can be.
Or James Van Riemsdyk or Patrick Kane.
Yeah, and to me, I don't know. I don't know that. I just had this conversation with somebody the other day about the Van Riemsdyk year. I don't know that Patrick Kane is the success that he has been if he's not on the same team with Jonathan Tate. So I don't know if that even had been reversed. I don't know how that would have played out for the Flyers. But it's certainly looking back on it, you think that they didn't get the luck there, and they certainly have not had the luck with their next number 2 pick in 2017. That didn't work out either. So no, that's kind of the difference right now between where the Flyers are and where the teams are that where those picks worked out.
Yeah, and look where Cam McCarr taken 5th overall. I mean, it's bananas. All right, let's wrap up for the radio audience. Let's thank a few people on the radio side. Let's start with our in-studio engineer. That would be Ryan Shuttlesworth. On highlights tonight was the Pancake Man, Chris Ashcraft. For Tim Saunders, Steve Coates, Brian Smith, I'm Jason Martinez. You've been listening to Philadelphia Flyers Hockey on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. Thanks, Rye.
Right.
Yeah. And there goes the radio audience.
I just realized that I wasn't talking into both microphones there for a little bit. So my apologies if
I got this sound in my ear here. Let me pause Sam Reinhart rather, talking to the media.
Is that me or you? I may still.
That was me. It was just coming through my ears on my computer.
Video cast up, but it is muted, I think.
Yeah, I didn't have mine muted. Jeez. All right, so it's off to Carolina. As James Taylor once said, I'm going to Carolina. I'm going to Carolina.
Unfortunately, they actually have to go to Carolina as opposed to just doing it in their mind.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I would like to. I think I'd rather face Carolina in my mind and not actually, because they are damn good.
Yeah, I mean, you get a ton of credit there to Rod Brindamore and where he's gotten that team. And this is not a flash in the pan. This is a few straight years now that they have been playing very, very well. Another team that's got scoring up and down the lineup. 18. I just brought it up. 18 double-digit scorers this year in terms of points.
Jeez,
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
When you have all the scoring they've been doing, and their leading scorer, Sebastian Aho, 59 points. It is just a complete team effort there this year. So.
And look, I think of that team. I think of Carolina, and I think that's like a team that is all defense, boring, blah, 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 right? But they're not. I mean, they're 8th in the league in scoring. They score 3.37 goals per game. What they do really well, though, is they keep the puck out of their net.
Yeah.
And they lead the NHL. I mean, they only give up 2.35 goals per game. And, that's number 1 in the league. Number 2 is Calgary under Darryl Sutter, which is a trait of his teams. They always are very responsible defensively. Then the Rangers are 3rd, but that's a lot of that's been predicated, obviously, on the performance of Igor Shesterkin this year. And then the Penguins top 5 as well, number 4 in Boston. So
yeah, it's got to be a full package. You can't just ride one portion of your game or another. In this day and age, it's got to be. Look at Edmonton. I mean, top 2 scorers in the league might miss the playoffs. It's got to be a full package from back to front.
It's very rare that you see a team like Edmonton. They average 3.21 goals a game, and they average giving up 3.21 goals per game.
Yeah, and it's
186, 186.
It's not a 1-year problem. This has been going on with this team for 5 years. I
Yeah.
mean, I would think that you'd fix it already. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe it's not quite that simple, but it's just an example of how you can't. They say you build some of these teams you build from the net out, and occasionally you can run into a team like Florida that. And again, they're catching. I got to say they probably caught a little luck with Sergei Bobrovsky's resurgence, because it did look like he was, kind of on his way out. But he has certainly shown that he's still got at least a couple of years left in the tank.
Yeah, and a big ticket as well. He signed that 7-year, $70 million contract. It's a lot of money to commit to goaltending. So we'll see if what they're doing down there is ultimately sustainable. What did we think of the return of Cam York tonight?
Well, he certainly, again, the other thing too I was going to mention back in the first intermission when we were talking about those 4 goals is that the Flyers didn't skate this morning. They were in a hotel about 40 minutes away from the building. So they did not make the trip in for the morning skate. And to me, it kind of showed in that first period a little bit. And it felt like, to me, it also showed in Cam York's case. He did get to practice with the team yesterday, but, coming from the American League up to the NHL, you got to practice in. Certainly that's good. But then you go into this 20,000 seat building after you've been playing in American League buildings the last 3 or 4 weeks. And, there's still a little bit of a curve there. And then obviously to jump back in against a team like Florida is tough. But other than that one goal where he kind of, should have probably had a little bit of a better gap control there. And they played it a little bit too much to the left side. Other than that, I thought he was solid. I thought, obviously he looks like he fits right in on the power play there, which is good. Flyers are going to want to use him there down the road. With today's news about Ristolainen, now the question becomes, where does he slot in? You don't. I don't see him as being a third pairing defenseman for a extended length of time. So now you've got Sanheim, Provorov, Ellis, Ristolainen. Everybody is under contract. What happens now? So see how
we need 3 left side guys.
Yeah, I mean, again, for this year, you're good. You got a spot for him.
Yep.
With Ellis out, but what happens next year? So
yeah. And that's the thing. You presumably they're not going to bring Keith Yandel back to be third pair power play specialist again next season. So
I don't know that he's coming back anywhere next
yeah,
season.
exactly. Yeah. I was being nice.
Congratulations on the record. I still think there's a 50-50 shot that somebody wants to bring him in for the playoffs, and maybe not really to play all that much. But, if there's anything that we've seen over the years with the Flyers is that you can never have enough defensemen in the playoffs. And with the experience that he's got, the playoff acumen that he's been there, he could even – I guess the Florida divorce was messy, so I don't see him going back there. But he could go back to a team like Florida that's got a young defensive core and kind of mentor them through a playoff run. Again, even if he doesn't play it a whole lot,
Rangers.
Yeah, that could be another stopping point. He certainly fit well there before, and he's a New York kind of guy. So there's certainly some possibilities as far as people that might want to give the Flyers some kind of asset for him.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing with him too is, go back. The Flyers had to move Sammy Kapanen into D. You can't have enough D, right?
That's the year I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That year, in my mind, we've talked about this. The Flyers should have 6 Stanley Cups, not 2. And 2 of the 6 that they should have are the years they didn't even get to the final. And 2004 is one of them.
Yeah.
They finish off that series. Their defense is solid. The Calgary Flames in 2004 were just kind of a consolation prize. The winner of that Tampa Philadelphia series was going to be the team that took it. So that's to me, that in 2000, those are the 2 years that they didn't even make the final that they should have won. Again, it still astounds me to look at the history of this team and see the people on Twitter. They haven't won anything since 1975, and you go over to NHL.com and you click that all-time button, and the Flyers are third there. I don't know if it would be better to have 2 more Stanley Cups and have suffered through 15 years of finishing last and to get them there, or whatever. I mean, it's a moot point because you can't change anything. But that's what I was getting at. You can't have too many defensemen because you never know what's coming down the pike. Some years you're going to be like 13-14 Hal Gill. I think it was 13-14. But it was Hal Gill who was here and played 6 games because nobody got hurt. I mean, It was remarkable. The Flyers were coming off, I believe that was coming off the year, or it was 2 years earlier, where Pronger was out, and they lost more than 400 man games to injuries like this year's going to be. Although that one was not as bad as this year because that had Pronger and Marc-Andre Bourdon on the list, and Marc-Andre Bourdon was a role player at best for that team. You need all the defensemen you can get when you're trying to get on a run like that.
Yeah, it's crazy though. Since the Flyers came in '67, the win percentage in the NHL, number one's Vegas, but they've only been in the league.
They don't count.
Yeah, they don't count yet. You need more of a sample size than 350 games.
Yep.
And their win percentage is .628. But Boston, in essence, then number one at .606. The Montreal, Le Habitant Canadien, who we'll see on Sunday, .591. Flyers at .573. And Nashville at .558.
And Boston, I want to say Boston's just jumped up there in the last decade.
Yeah, they have.
About when the Flyers were back in the final and, coming up on their 40th anniversary of their first cup, it was just Montreal and then them,
Since 2000, the Flyers are 12th in the NHL, 566.
Yeah.
I mean, since 67, the Penguins are like 18th, 522. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in 2005 things changed. It's a very different era that was very much bang. It started that year.
Yeah, salary cap.
Out. There was remember the salary cap was $39 million. My goodness.
Well, the TV rights were on Outdoor Life Network.
It came out of the lockout with a salary cap and a completely new rule book.
Yep.
And that changed everything.
And
that's why, that again, everything's got context, and that's why you can't sit here and say how bad the Flyers are doing because 20 years ago they were in the playoffs every single year. Well, 20 years ago there were 8 fewer teams in the league at least, and there was no salary cap. So, the Flyers wanted to go out and get Connor McDavid. They just go pay him money and get him. Now you can do that. I mean, how many guys did they add there for that 2004 run? I mean, they already had Recchi and Roenick in house, and then they just threw Paul Coffey on top there. I think was that the year, or was it?
Yeah, Coffey's on that team. I think. Yeah.
Just go out and get whoever. I mean, they darn near had Ray Bork. In 2000, and tell me that team doesn't win if that trade doesn't go through.
Yeah.
So it's it's again a moot point, but it's something you can debate over beers in a bar if you want to pass the time. But
I mean, you think about that team, like some great American players on that team: LeClaire, Almonte, Roenick, Justin Williams is on that team. I'm just looking at these in general. Desjardins on the team. Who else is here? Yeah, Sammy Captain, of course. Simone Gagne, Jesus Recchi.
Desjardins was the one who, he broke his arm playing catch with his son.
Yeah,
and couldn't continue in the playoffs. That was the big missing piece there. In '87 it was Tim Kerr. They got to take Edmonton all the way to Game 7 without your 50 goal scorer.
It's crazy. You know, when you look at it,
no
since
Bernie
they
in 76, you know.
yeah, since they won the cup, so they lose the cup in 76 to Montreal, who wins 4 straight.
Mhm.
They lose in 80 to the Islanders, who win 4 straight.
Mhm.
They lose in 85 and 87 to the Edmonton Oilers, who win 4 in 6 years. And then they lose in 97 to Detroit, who wins 3 in 5 years. And then they lose in 10 to Chicago, who wins 3 in 5 years.
Just run into the wrong guys at the wrong time.
Sometimes it's not getting there; it's who you get when you get there.
Yeah, you know, and
Nuts.
again, it's like, you know, if there's always these little plays. It's kind of why I really hesitate to say, okay, they haven't done this, so they need to do this. I mean, you know, let's look at two plays in that 2010 team. Okay,
Jeff Carter.
That 2010 game 82 goes the other way, and they don't make the playoffs at all. What happens to the franchise from there versus what happens to the franchise if Jeff Carter hits that open net in game 6?
Yeah,
go back out and win game 7, or if they don't blow the second intermission lead in game 1. You know, remember that game 1? That was like a 6-5 win, and that Chicago was trailing by 2 or by 1 at the second intermission. And then, you know, game 2, I mean, they went on goals by Ben Eager of all things.
Yeah.
You know, so it's you have to be, to me, you're judging your team based on the level of success having made it to the Final Four. Okay. Like if you want to judge it based on, okay, getting knocked out in the second round every year and that's not success, okay, I'm fine with that. But you get to the Final Four, from that point on, the difference between making it to the conference final and winning a Stanley Cup is some bounces here and there. And the Flyers have made it to the Final Four, I believe, 15 times since, I don't know if it's total or since the Cups, but they've made it to the final, to the conference finals level, or equivalent, more than any other team in that time frame last time I checked, which was several years ago. So maybe somebody's passed them. But what I'm saying is there's demonstrated continued success there even since 2000.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. All right, well, let's wrap it up. We're going to be back on Saturday, 2:50 on the radio, 2:30 for pregame here on the stream.
Mm-hmm.
And the Flyers will get after it against Carolina, who they've actually beaten this year in Carolina. They had a 2-1 win back on November 12th. So we'll crank it up for that one. I see the cat's tail there. So
she wants me to shut up and let her out or something. I don't know what she wants.
Yeah. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you Saturday on Flyers Game Day.